You've studied at least 4 American presidents very closely. How do you think Donald Trump is going so far?
Frankly, I think it's been a disaster, but it's more a matter of style rather than substance right now. There's been a lot of bad things that have been started. But, you know, I lived through Mr. Bush, and I think that was a far more profound impact that we've had on our country and our society with his war policies and his Mideast policies.
Are you worried about the future of the world? It's a big question.
I am very worried about it. I think we're sleepwalking towards a nuclear nightmare.
You questioned the claims by US intelligence services that Russia had interfered with the election. What do you think now?
Listen, I've always questioned the US intelligence services. The CIA has always been a very dicey operation. Again and again, we see instances where the intelligence services, not just the CIA, but the NSA too, and the FBI, have made huge mistakes. And we've paid the price. You know, when you have these kind of weapons and this kind of power to destroy life on Earth, you have a tremendous responsibility, and you have to listen to those people who don't agree with you.
I don't see any benefit for the Russians to have weighed in on the U.S. election or have any impact. I think, you know, if you think that Russia can influence the American election, which is so varied, so mixed, so many people, how the hell can you do it? Everyone I've talked to in the computer world, from the Snowden film, people who are experts say that there's no proof. And this thing about evidence keeps circulating, and they keep building up these suppositions. They keep suggesting that this is obviously clearly a hack and this influenced the election. Where is the proof? We're waiting for it.
Well, let's hear from the former head of Homeland Security in the Obama administration. Here's what Joe Johnson told a recent Congressional Intelligence Committee.
In 2016, the Russian government, at the direction of Vladimir Putin himself, orchestrated cyber attacks on our nation for the purpose of influencing our election. That is a fact, plain and simple. Now the key question for the President and the Congress is, what are we going to do to protect the American people and their democracy from this kind of thing in the future?
Oliver, how would you respond to that?
Again, he says this is a fact. This is what everyone says, but where is the evidence behind this is a fact? This is stunning. This is like Joe McCarthy talking and saying, I know about these people in the State Department. There's 200 communists there. That's a fact. You know, come on. This is not a way we've ever done business. This is wrong. Let's get honest about the cyber world. This has happened. The United States was the most aggressive user of cyberspace. In the beginning, it started with Iran. In 2010, we hit Iran successfully with the Stuxnet virus, which was a disaster. The Stuxnet virus, you remember that, Tom? Mm-hmm. I hope you do. Mm-hmm. Because that was the first known attack on another country by the United States. That put the world on notice that the United States was using cyber warfare. And it made numerous attacks on Russia, which Putin won't even say, but basically they did.
And there's plenty of evidence too, by the way, to show that the Americans have intervened in the internal affairs of foreign states.
Oh, in the election of 1996, they intervened with Yeltsin. They got him back into office. They intervened in 2012 when Putin ran for the third time. Yeah. Constant interference. And by the way, on our film, we have a shot of Victoria Nuland, the famous Undersecretary of State who's saying that they were very involved in Russia in 2012 with NGOs and quite a significant amount of money trying to alter the vote. She says that.
See, the Australian media, like the American media, will always run this line that there were 17 different agencies in the US government that run the line that the Russian government hacked the information. But I have noticed, though, it has never been shown in any declassified information that the Russians disseminated that information. Assange has denied any involvement with the Russians. Why then do we keep hearing this argument that the Russians disseminated this information to WikiLeaks?
Well, I think it's a similar situation. It's happened before in the Vietnam War and the Iraq War. The Iraq War, there was politicized intelligence. The intelligence agencies in the United States are just not to be trusted. Look at the whole Snowden affair. What did Snowden tell us? Mr. Clapper, who was apparently now lionized by the media, went on national television and lied. He lied. They said there was no surveillance in the United States of our citizens. He was caught flat out lying. He should have been fired on the spot. No, he gets promotion. Everyone gets promoted upwards. John Brennan of the CIA had said very negative things about Trump. So I have a feeling this thing was concocted by the intelligence agencies, and 3 of them, not 17, the NSA, CIA primarily, FBI, and they put out this information. And, with this new Vault 7, which Julian Assange released, he had you remember Vault 7, this shows that they have the tradecraft. The CIA has the billions and billions of dollars you can spend on the tradecraft that you need to fake the source of where you put your malware. In other words, you put malware into all the countries of the world, which we are doing, by the way, and I went into that in Snowden. People are not paying attention. And we can lay off that malware and say that Russia did it, China did it, Iran did it. That's what Vault 7 proved. So in other words, people are not up to date on all the intelligence tradecraft that's available to the CIA, and apparently they're competing with the NSA now because they had their own operation set up outside the NSA. Until you prove it, you can go say this is a fact, and you can get all the top people in the world. But don't you remember back to the Iraq War when Bush, Cheney, all the members of the administration were saying this is a fact? Don't we have a memory of that? It's only a few years ago. We wrecked the country. We brought chaos to the Middle East. No one seems to remember. There was both based on false information, false intelligence. Politicizing intelligence has been done for years. John Kennedy, when he came into office, was forced into this devastating operation called Bay of Pigs. He found out the truth behind it, that he'd been lied to, and he vowed to strip the CIA into thousands of pieces. He never got there, unfortunately. He tried. But that CIA has never been a force for good. It's been a force for evil, as Julian Assange has said. Since the beginning, trying to protect America has given false signals to America of its importance, overblown its own importance, lied repeatedly, staged internal coups in other countries. You have a long list of crimes, and here we behave now in this time as if the CIA is some kind of heroic organization that's keeping us away from Trump. And I believe that the only problem with this situation is that Trump is not acting like a reformer. You see, he's not the Kennedy figure that I want anyway, the man who would say, look, enough with the intelligence agency, we've got to start over, we're going to appoint some honest people to investigate them. We're going to open the real files. We're going to find out what really happened in Ukraine, in Syria, and in 1,000 other places. And the one day that Trump was applauded in all the media, it was the day he bombed Syria. In other words, he's not the reformer that we would like to take office. He's also the one who's asked for a stronger military, stronger CIA. I don't understand him. He's not winning his battle with them, for sure. He's appointed his own people maybe over time, but his own people are even worse in some ways. They're vowing to bring Assange to justice, and they're vowing on Snowden to go after Snowden. This is an ugly time. But Trump is not acting like a person who's interested in reforming. He wants to expand these agencies. This is the worst of both evils.
So you spent time with Mr. Putin, you've spent some time with Mr. Trump. Who is a greater threat to world peace?
I think the intelligence agencies are.